Hi guys, Joe Sadler here, the CRO of Traverse Automation. Thanks for joining us today. So today we are talking about how automatic document matching is reducing costs by 50% in travel. The aim of today is not to sell to any of you, it's just to kind of give you some insight into the problems that are happening in the travel industry in particular when it comes to this area. Certain areas that people can look at helping themselves with, and ultimately, things that you can avoid doing, which we see horror stories all the time and hear about horror stories all the time. If you do have any questions, we do obviously want you to kind of save them to the end, but if you do have them throughout and you think you might forget about that question, feel free to just put it in the chat and I'll jump in during the parts of the session. So the person who's running us through today is our CEO, John O'Neill, who's pretty much written all of our products here at Traverse and solutions for the travel industry. Been working in the industry for over 26 years now, John, is that right?
86, I think it is, Joe.
86, right, yeah.
It feels like it anyway.
So John's going to be leading us through the presentation today and answering any questions. And yeah, I'm sure I'll dive in at certain points as well. But yeah, over to you, John.
That's great. Thanks, Joe. So basically, we're covering how automation document matching is reducing costs by up to 50% in travel. And actually, sometimes it's more than 50%, certainly for some of the bigger companies. So in terms of Traverse, just really, really quickly. So we've been trading for 16 years, just over 16 years, and we're specialists in travel, in automation, AI, and data. So we started really back in the day automating Excel processes, moved through robotic process automation, and now we're into kind of AI and machine learning. And the thing that I think is really unique about Traverse is the fact that we simplify the complex. So rather than customers having to really understand the really, really hard things, we're absorbing that and creating the simplest solutions we can do. So in terms of why this is a problem, I mean, this is something we started doing probably 10 years ago. And at the time, I was amazed how many companies had this problem. And to be honest, it's exactly the same today. Things haven't really changed in the last 10 years. And if anything, it's a bigger problem now because some of the travel suppliers are making it harder and harder to match their invoices. So the problem is that so suppliers send emails mostly in PDF format to the inbox. So this is from any type of booking. So these can be flights, cruise, accommodation. Even more than ever now, some of the suppliers are asking you to download them from a web portal. Some of them don't even send the emails, and you have to ask for them to send the email. And so the upshot is you end up with masses and masses of emails in an inbox, and there can be thousands of these, and somebody has to find the ones that are related to invoices. They have to download the documents. And then they have to process them. So in terms of the kind of the process at the bottom of the screen, once the email arrives, we extract the PDFs, we extract the data, we analyze it, we take data out of your internal systems, and we match the two together. If everything matches, then everything's fine. And if there's a problem, the issue goes on the exception report, and then the user can deal with those. And then at the end of the process, we post those documents to your booking system. So it can be so the documents are there so that your sales team or your operations team can find those documents. So I mean, the reason that this is a problem is in terms of labor cost. Some of the bigger companies can have 10 or 15 people involved in this, but most companies have got 1 or 2 people who are doing this and not adding a huge amount value to the business because it's mostly mundane work. It takes a long time to do, and as at peak periods, it really doesn't scale well. So you need more and more people, and the more people you get, particularly untrained, the more human errors you get. So it's
just a quick question, actually, John, on that. You mentioned about labour costs at the start there. So I guess a few people would be thinking in their growth period as a smaller travel company. They might be thinking, well, I only have 1 or 2 people, who do this manually. So why do I look to automate it yet? what are the benefits there to those businesses who perhaps aren't scaling to the 10 or 15 people that you just mentioned?
I mean, I think for a small company, although it's probably manageable, one of the biggest problems you've got is if you only have one or two people doing this, those people have holidays, those people can be sick. So you've got very little resilience in the business when there's a problem. When the peaks, one or two people will really struggle to deal with the demand. So even as a small business, it's even worse, I think, in terms of having to kind of cope with the scalability issues. And obviously, the earlier you put this in and bed it in, and the simpler you make your process, then you're all ready to scale as you get bigger, and it will help you to get bigger. So I think that's the problem. I think I wondered 10 years ago why there were so many errors, and I think I still wonder sometimes why there's so many errors, but I think a lot to do with just complexity of travel systems. There's so many different versions. There are kind of a lot of systems involved. There are people involved, and people are yielding price all the time, and there's so much chance of actually there being an issue. And I think in cases where we put it invoice matching in, there are cases where 50% of invoices have got an error, which I still find amazing, but it's absolutely the case. So this is what not to do if you're in this position. So one of a natural resort or a natural kind of reaction is to outsource. So into a lower cost company or or country. Direct cost can be quite low, so you can be paying a lot less per hour, but again, the full cost is quite high, so the error rates tend to be much higher. It's very hard to manage. You still need to put management control over you don't get away with using management. You've still got people to manage the people, and you don't have very much control. It's a bit of a black box. It's still not so easy to scale up because you need to throw more people at it, but they have to be trained. So although it sounds like a nice idea, mostly it's not a great solution. The most natural human response is to do nothing and wait for another day to fix it. And I think even though you're not spending any new money, sunk cost is still cost. So it's still costing you money that you could invest somewhere else. And as you grow, you're still going to have to recruit more people, particularly to manage peaks. You're going to be leaking cost from errors, and it's really hard to improve a process where you've got more and more people kind of falling over each other. So I think the sooner you do something, the better. Buying a generic product, again, there are lots of generic products out there which are mostly based on AI, but the matching rate is not great. So you still have to train the AI. So we've seen cases where you spend as much time training the AI as you were doing the manual matching. And you'd hope that gets better over time, but sometimes it doesn't. So I think you need to be very cautious that if you take on a generic solution, you can still have a high cost. And when it breaks, it's a bit of a black box, and very hard to know, very hard to get support sometimes and to get the problems resolved. So what can you do to make it easier? One of the things you probably shouldn't do is try to do it yourself. Although it's not rocket science, it is. There are a lot of working parts to it. There's a lot of things that can change in the system. The PDFs from suppliers can change all the time, especially if you're pulling those from portals, which can change. That it is complex, and we've seen a few fairly big customers who've tried to do it themselves and have abandoned it 2 or 3 years down the line and come back to us. So I think it's not as easy as it might sound, but I think what happens if you do put automation in today, you probably still take 3 or 4 months to change your process and iron out all of the problems that the automation kind of uncovers for you. So the best thing to do if you're thinking of automating is to start to make the process simpler now. And the simpler you make it now, the easier it will be to automate and the quicker you'll get the benefits. So there's some simple things. So from an internal process point of view, just getting all the emails into a single inbox or forwarding to a single inbox means it's kind of managed and everything's in one place. Getting somebody who will own it. is a big thing, because again, if nobody owns the process, it won't get better. And if they have metrics and targets, then the process will get better. And just getting some management information, some metrics, so you can control the process. You can understand as you make changes if it gets better, and simplify as much as you can, because there's absolutely no point automating a complex process, because you just will not get the benefits you could have done, and there'll be points that can fail because there's still human parts to it. So make it as simple as you can, and work out in terms of tolerances what you can, what a tolerance would be. So if a commission is right within 5p, you're just going to accept it, or does it need to be an exception? And if you think of all that up front, then you're really in a good position then to automate. From a supplier point of view, ask for invoices. So there are suppliers now, particularly cruise lines, that don't send you invoices, and you have to ask them. But again, I think if you ask them, they'll send them on a regular basis, but it needs to be proactive. Fixing issues, because again, there'll be a lot of issues that are known, and people just tend to tolerate them and work around the issues. Whereas I think going back to the suppliers and getting known issues with invoices fixed, and asking them for notifications of when they make changes, because sometimes we'll notice when an invoice type changes, the field's in a different place, and we'll fix it. But if you ask the supplier to tell you when it's changing, we can be ready, so much quicker. It can be almost like it can be a smooth change to the new format. And then just look at the suppliers with the highest volume and error rates, and just tackle those early, and try and work out, is it what's going wrong, and is there something that they can do to improve it if the errors are at their side, because you still have to do all of this downstream. From an agent point of view, the training is always a great thing, and just to find what typically happens is a small number of the agents make all of the errors, or most of the errors, and it's good to work out what best practice is and what that looks like. So from a res system point of view, from a booking system, what tends to happen is if there's a P&R grab has been implemented for a flight and it breaks, what people do immediately is go off system and start booking them. Whereas again, they should go back to the res system supplier and get them to fix it, and not be so tolerant of the problems. Fix any of the res issues. Again, just be less tolerant of the things that sit in the background for months and years that really should be fixed, and avoid booking off system. So if you really do have to book off system, use something like a confirmation wizard solution, which is basically a wizard that sits on your desktop, and as you book offline, it copies across to your booking system. So make sure you're not baking errors in at the time the agent books something that then just becomes a problem when you come to match. The more you fix the problems downstream, the better it is. And if there's an API, or there's a programmatic way to put documents and get data out of your booking system, that will make the integration easier. In terms of fields, so again, this is the exception field analysis. There is literally what we've seen over many integrations, is that the percentage of errors that we see from passenger name are about 13%. So again, if you can work out whether either your tolerance can be changed so that actually you don't care as much about certain differences, or making sure that the agents are really careful about it, will save you 13% of problems downstream that then somebody needs to fix. So again, if you look at those, a lot around passenger names and arrival times, and if you tackle those early, then the invoice matching process will be so much quicker to deliver you benefits. So in terms of what an automated solution looks like, so what we've done, we've basically put AI with automation to create a fully automated solution where you define some business rules, and if there's any custom automations that sit around the process, anything else that needs to be automated around invoice matching, like pulling documents from particular suppliers, etc. So we have a system that will do all of that completely automated and defined by you, and it sits in the cloud, and all you really have to worry about is summary and exception report. So you look at the summary, you can see how the process is working, and then you get exception reports to tell you the problem. And the whole invoice automatically just shrunk down into a back office process that has a whole set of quality assurance checks running around it to keep everything on track. And all you see are the issues that are either caused from your agent's human error or from the supplier. So the upgraded process is an automated bot that is doing all of that work. It's doing the matching, the confirmation, and just the whole process is managed. And all you see is the exception reports, and at the end, we will post the relevant documents against the booking, so anybody can go in and they've got an audit log of what documents were sent against which booking. So in terms of the benefits, obviously cost saving is massive for a lot of companies now, because cost is such a big issue. But essentially what you get is a solution that just runs quietly in the back office. It's not a kind of it's not in your face. It's tracking service levels and error rates. It's got quality assurance checks around it, and it just reduces the whole thing to the tiny amount of things you have to deal with. And the benefits are, so you reduced error rates because there are no humans involved. The error rates drop massively quickly. The error rates will drop just to human errors and supplier errors. And again, if you've already got rid of those before you start, you'll be down to very small numbers of errors really quickly. It's obviously the manual efforts reduced because the humans are doing a very, very small job in terms of just managing the exceptions. Things happen quickly, so that it's not only does things happen quickly, but the risk is reduced because there are no problems kind of festering on the system that nobody's getting to. And because of the management information, you're getting a up-to-date summary and exception reports related to metrics and KPIs. So you've got control over the system, and you've got the kind of data you can see at exec level, so they know it's running, and you've got operational data. So you really, everybody's kind of comfortable that it just runs in the background. So this is just one of the case studies we've done. So in when we first implemented this system for Brooklyn Travel, their tech supplier implemented Abby Fine Reader, which I think is probably the market leader in extracting data from text documents, and that was integrated with iCell. And that took several months of bedding in. And I think the problem they had was the team that used to do the matching was spending day in, day out training the AI, so that every time there's an exception, the AI sent them an exception, and they had to do some mapping, and then the next day they got more exceptions, and it just didn't come to an end. So we were asked to take this on. It took a couple of weeks to put a solution in, and the error rates had literally gone from nearly 50% to less than 1%. And this is on some like 44,000 documents per month. So it's a reasonable volume of documents plowing through a tiny error rate, and the ROI was at the order of 80k per year. And so in terms of our clients, so we've got a range of clients. So we work with some of the bigger ones like Booking.com, Kuoni, etc. A lot of our mainstream is mid-sized businesses who have quite some strong automation needs, and we do work with some small ones as well. I say we built this over the last 16 years, and the invoice matching part of the business is growing. I think in the last year has grown quicker than it ever has done before. Literally everybody we talk to now has got this problem within travel.
John, just a quick question from me. So I know that you mentioned a few weeks back that companies that do have kind of one individual working in this area that's manually doing it at the moment. Do you think that when they grow to the 4 people, they're just stuck in their ways and they're used to it, so they don't look to then make that change, or and probably regret not implementing it at that kind of early stage of their business?
Well, I think the one thing that humans, the biggest drive in humans is to keep things the same, and I
Mm,
think everybody's like that. So the minute innovation, something that happens for a very short period, and then we all habituate. So I think what all that happens is, I go in to see people, and they've, I'll quite often ask why they do something, and they'll say, well, Bob did that when he handed over 5 years ago. And then when you really ask, you'll find out that actually nobody knows why they're doing that. And
yeah,
it's just not required. So there's a whole pile of best practice that, doesn't get spread. I think if you take an automation solution, what you're essentially getting is best practice over a lot of customers embedded in an automatic solution with all of the right kind of rules and approach. Whereas if you have a small number of people doing it, if you're lucky, they might be, talking to other people and tuning the processes, but mostly they'll do what they've always done forever, and they might not be documented, and when they're on holiday, people don't know what to do, etc. So it's the
yeah,
kind of process you want. It's not a shiny, sexy process. It's the kind of thing you just want to work reliably in the background, and you don't
yeah.
want heroes keeping it going. I think they're not adding enough to make that valuable.
Oh. So yeah, we're going to open up now. I'm not too sure. Obviously, kind of limited numbers today, but does anyone have any questions? Maybe areas of pain that they're going through, even if it's not related to what we're actually referencing today when it comes to document matching? Anyone? No? James, have you got a question now? I noticed you went to go and unmute.
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah, hi Joel, hi John. So my question would be, I don't have invoices on matching, but I have booking confirmations that come in over PDF. So presumably that's exactly the same. You could work with that, yeah?
This is really a document matching product, but again, we focus on invoice matching. You can do things like flight schedule changes, tickets, whatever comes into your inbox really can be managed. And if, I mean, there's a whole inbox management side to this, but we can kind of route those emails to the right person. We can have an automation to deal with them. So if it's flight schedule change, the automation can action it on the system, and it can tell the customer. It's not limited to anything really. Whatever you want to handle that is just taking time and effort and isn't adding anything is really a good candidate.
To add to that, actually, as well, when you get to the scoping stage of implementing something like this in the business, James, what I found is a lot of questions that come up is about duplicate receipts or duplicate invoices or duplicate changes from suppliers. So you often find that some suppliers accidentally send two or the same invoice over a course of a week, which is exactly the same. Our system actually enables us to match it and then confirm it's just matched again. Now, if obviously the agent, for example, from your side has made a change to that booking, and then we receive another invoice we can ultimately again try and configure that against the set of rules that you set, and then we'd then ultimately update the invoice that's been entered into your booking system. So yeah, I mean, it's capabilities. Every call that we've had probably recently, the capabilities are just getting stronger and stronger because everyone's not in the same position.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say anything could be automated, and you can do things like we deal with agent and guest copies of invoices, and so the only question really is there a business case to automate the thing you want to automate? So I think you just look, if you look at the biggest issues first, then it'd be very hard to find a case why you wouldn't automate them these days.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, that was useful.
Is there anything in particular, James, that you're kind of working on or trying to change at the moment?
Well, so we have one company that we work with that sends confirmations pretty regularly, and they maybe will send 3 different versions over the over a couple of months, just updating. Usually it's client details, so adding cell phone numbers, or actually it's pretty much it's adding cell phone numbers, maybe flight arrival times, flight numbers. So presumably that could get updated as well, couldn't it?
Yeah. So we do have the capabilities. We had a conversation, not sure if I'm allowed to say name, so I won't, with someone today about some systems, providing that we can get the APIs of the booking system, we can actually update the fields as well. So, going back to the changes side of things, which I know is separate to the invoice matching, we can actually make changes, automated changes. From my tech team said that we can do that today. So, yeah, so if there's a change from the schedule change or the confirmation from, let's say, EasyJet, send you a supplier invoice, the seat number's actually changed, but in the booking system, it's different. We've actually, provided we can get the API for the booking system, we can actually update your booking system to notify the client as well. And that booking system that we were talking about was one of the TTS systems, Erin. So we would have to obviously check that with any kind of booking system that someone is using, providing we can get the APIs. Some booking systems are a little bit easier than others. So yeah.
Well, we work with most of them. We work with
Yeah.
things like with iSelf and Travel Tech and Inspire Tech and iVector. So most of the main booking systems we've worked with at this point.
Cool. All right.
Can I ask what
cool.
you guys do for Max Adventure? Am I allowed to ask that?
I wouldn't be able to answer that, John.
I can't imagine it's a secret. I can tell you afterwards, James, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah. I'm just interested because we're sort of somewhat similar. They're bigger scale than we are, but we're sort of somewhat similar businesses.
We do quite a lot with. They've actually become one of our biggest customers recently, so we do quite a lot with them. So I don't think that'd be a secret. So I can tell you about that afterwards if you like.
Right, thank you.
Do you have any other questions, James?
No, I don't. No, thanks, guys.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thanks everyone. I hope it's been informative. If you do want to get in touch with us with regards to any kind of demonstrations of any of our solutions, or you've got any tedious manual problems that you'd like to look at automating, get in touch via the website. It has a link directly to our calendar. So yeah, looking forward to catching up with you soon. Take care.